Snow had fallen thick across the old mining town the night Angela returned home for Christmas. She had always loved winter, quiet, soft, nostalgic. But that year the silence felt wrong, heavy, as if the snow itself were listening. Her father's house stood at the end of the road, half swallowed by trees whose branches bent under the weight of ice. The lights were on. Yet when she knocked, nobody answered. She let herself in and called out, assuming her father had fallen asleep early. The house smelled of pine, cinnamon, and something else beneath it, something metallic. On the table lay a single mug of cocoa, steam still curling from the top as if someone had been drinking it moments earlier. "Dad," she whispered. She heard footsteps upstairs, then a door creaked. She rushed up the old staircase, heart pounding, expecting to find him, but the hallway was empty. At the far end, her father's bedroom door was half open. She pushed it gently. Inside the room, the window was wide open, blowing snow inside. Her father's boots were on the floor, jacket thrown across the bed as if ripped off. But no sign of him. Only deep footprints leading from the window out into the woods. For 3 hours, she followed the trail with a flashlight. Snow fell harder. The tracks grew fresher, deeper, meaning someone else had been walking ahead of her, someone heavy. She found scraps of her father's flannel torn on branches. Then far ahead she saw a figure, tall, wide-shouldered, dragging something behind it. She froze. Every instinct told her to hide, but the dragging sound stopped. The figure turned. Its shape was wrong, long arms hunched back, a head too low on its shoulders. It sniffed the air. Then it dropped what it was carrying, her father's hat. She bolted. Branches tore at her coat. She didn't know where she was running, only that the thing behind her was fast. She heard it panting, grunting, crawling on all fours. She saw a cabin light through the trees and sprinted toward it. She slammed the door behind her and locked it. Something hit the wall. The entire cabin shook. The creature screeched, a horrible, wet sound, and clawed at the wooden planks. Inside the cabin stood an old man with a shotgun. "You followed its tracks," he said, shaking. "You never follow its tracks." Angela stared at him. "What is it?" He swallowed. "People call it the Krampus here, but it's older than the stories. It hunts families alone on Christmas Eve." He pointed to the door. "And once it has your scent, it doesn't stop." The creature rammed the door again. Wood cracked. "It already has my dad," Angela whispered. "Maybe," the man said, "or maybe it dragged him to its den, but you won't survive going after him tonight." A long silence followed. The banging continued, the door splitting slowly. Then suddenly silence. The old man held his breath. "It only leaves when it's found someone else to take." They waited until morning. Angela returned with police search teams. They found claw marks, torn clothes, blood. But her father was never found. Only the hat frozen in the snow. Every Christmas since, Angela has heard scratching at her windows, soft at first, then louder as if something is reminding her. It never stopped hunting. Isaac had always hated Christmas shifts, but working as a paramedic meant he didn't have much of a choice. Roads were silent that night, whitened with frost. He and his partner, Maria, had just finished a long call when dispatch radioed in one more. "Unresponsive female, caller unidentified, location Maple Pines Orphanage." Maria frowned. "That place closed 20 years ago." Isaac shrugged. "Maybe someone squatting inside." But as they drove, something gnawed at him. The roads near the orphanage hadn't been plowed. There were no footprints, no tire marks, nothing. The orphanage loomed like a frozen skeleton in the dark. Windows boarded, roof sagging. The front door was open. Inside, the smell of cold rot and dust choked the air. "Hello," Isaac called. The beam of his flashlight shook slightly. "We got a call, someone needs help." No answer. Only the sound of wind pushing through broken rafters. They split up to search. Isaac walked into the old dormitory. Beds still lined the walls, blankets stiff with age. But in the far corner, a single bed was neatly made. Fresh sheets, a doll resting on the pillow. He approached slowly. As he reached out to touch the blanket, the temperature dropped so sharply it burned. His breath fogged thick in the air. Then he heard it, a tiny giggle behind him. He spun. A little girl stood in the doorway, pale as the moon, wearing an old-fashioned white nightgown, feet bare on the icy floor. "Are you hurt?" Isaac asked gently. The little girl tilted her head. "You came back," she whispered, "just like you promised." Isaac froze. "What do you mean? I've never been here." The girl smiled sadly. You don't remember, but we remember you. Footsteps sounded behind him, Maria running. Isaac, I found something. She stopped cold when she saw the girl. Where are your parents? Maria asked. The girl shook her head. We don't have parents, only her. Her eyes darted toward the ceiling. A soft thump sounded above them, then another. Slow, heavy steps crossing the attic. The little girl backed away. She knows you're here, she whispered. You shouldn't have come back. Suddenly the overhead lights, dead for decades, flickered on. The bulbs buzzed angrily. Maria grabbed Isaac's arm. We need to go, now. But the thumping grew louder, faster. Something massive was coming down the attic stairs, dragging its feet. Isaac and Maria ran, but the air thickened like glue. The front door slammed shut on its own. Behind them, a deep breath rattled through the hall. A hand, blackened, bony, impossibly long, clamped onto the hallway wall. The girl suddenly appeared beside Isaac, tugging his sleeve. This way, she pulled them toward a back exit. The creature screamed, an inhuman wail that shook dust from the ceiling. Isaac and Maria burst outside, sprinting through knee-deep snow. When they reached the ambulance and looked back, the orphanage was dark again. No lights, no footsteps, no girl. The next morning, police found no footprints but their own. No signs of anyone inside. But dispatch confirmed it. Someone had used an old landline inside the orphanage to call for help. The number matched one registered to a matron who died in 1983. Every year since, on Christmas Eve, Isaac's radio picks up static followed by a little girl's voice whispering, "You came back." Julie loved working night shifts at the Christmas Lodge on Carrington Peak. The job was peaceful, the lodge was beautiful, and the snow-covered mountains always looked magical. But that year, something felt different. Guests complained of hearing singing at night, even though no Christmas carolers were hired. Some said it sounded like a woman humming, far out in the woods. Others said the voice came from inside the walls. Julie brushed it off. Holiday stress always made people jumpy. One night a family checked in, a young couple with a 6-year-old son named Tommy. The boy refused to leave the lobby. "The lady outside is calling me," he whispered. Julie knelt beside him. "What lady?" Tommy pointed toward the tree line. "She's wearing a red dress. She keeps smiling." Julie looked, nothing but swirling snow. She assumed the boy's imagination was overactive. Around midnight, the fire alarm malfunctioned and Julie had to inspect the exterior in freezing wind. As she rounded the back of the lodge, she heard it, soft humming. A woman's voice. Clear, beautiful, floating through the trees. She stopped. The melody was old, haunting, somehow familiar. The humming grew louder. Then she saw her, a tall woman in a flowing red dress, hair black as soot, skin as pale as candle wax. She was standing barefoot in the snow, not sinking into it. Her lips were blue. Her eyes were empty sockets. Julie staggered back, but the woman smiled. "You hear me," she whispered. "Good." Julie sprinted inside, locking the door. When she turned, Tommy stood in the hallway, staring at her. "Did she sing to you too?" he asked softly. Julie shivered. "Go back to bed, sweetheart." But Tommy shook his head. "She says we have to go with her. She says Christmas is hers now." That night, the temperature inside the lodge plummeted. Guests woke up screaming from nightmares. Some said they saw the woman in their rooms. Others said she whispered their names. Julie checked on Tommy, but his room was empty. The window open. Snow blowing in. Tiny barefoot prints led into the forest. Julie grabbed a flashlight and followed the tracks. The wind howled as she descended the trail. She heard the humming again, louder, closer. Then she saw Tommy standing alone at the frozen lake. The woman in red stood behind him, towering over his small frame. "Let him go," Julie shouted. The woman turned, her smile widening unnaturally. "He listened when no one else did," she said softly. "Children always listen." Julie charged forward, but the ice beneath her cracked. She dropped to her knees. The woman glided across the lake effortlessly. "This place belonged to me long before the lodge," she whispered. "They buried me in these woods, alone. Forgotten, but every Christmas I take one back." Tommy suddenly looked up at Julie, eyes wide. "Help me." Julie lunged, grabbing his arm just as the ice gave way under her. She plunged into freezing water. The woman screeched, reaching for them. Julie kicked upward, pulling Tommy with all her strength. They burst through the surface. The woman clawed at the ice, screaming in rage as cracks spread around her. Then, with a deafening crack, she plunged into the black water. Julie dragged Tommy through the snow until lodge employees found them. The lake froze over again, smooth and undisturbed. Authorities searched but found nothing, except a red scrap of fabric frozen beneath the ice. To this day, guests swear they hear humming at the lake each Christmas Eve, and sometimes they see a tall woman in red standing just beneath the surface, waiting. Darren had been a mall security guard for 10 years, and Christmas Eve was always chaos. Kids crying, last-minute shoppers yelling, holiday music looping endlessly. But the worst part was the Santa exhibit, the giant animatronic display installed that year. It featured a life-sized Santa that moved, laughed, and recited stories. Darren hated it. Something about the eyes looked too real. Around midnight, when the mall finally closed, Darren began his final sweep. The lights were dimmed, music off, only the echo of his footsteps. When he passed the Santa setup, he paused. The animatronic's head slowly turned toward him, mechanical eyes glowing faintly red. Darren sighed. Great, another malfunction. He tapped the switch. Nothing. The figure twitched slightly, its beard shifting. Then it whispered, "You're still here." Darren froze. Animatronics weren't programmed to whisper. Probably a glitch, he muttered, backing away. But the Santa figure rose from its throne, slowly creaking. "You shouldn't be here, Darren," it said, voice rasping like metal scraping metal. Darren ran to the control booth, unplugging the entire display. The lights died, but when he turned back, Santa was gone. Darren's radio crackled. "You left the north hallway lights on," a coworker's voice said. "No, I'm in the south hall," Darren replied, static, then whispering, childlike voices giggling. He dropped the radio and hurried toward the exit. But as he passed the toy store, small shadows scurried behind shelves. He heard tiny bells jingling. Then laughter echoed, high-pitched, distorted. "Santa wants to play," a voice sang. Darren sprinted toward the food court. Suddenly, metal gates slammed down around him. He was trapped. Footsteps echoed, heavy ones. The Santa figure emerged from the dark, towering, slumped forward like a puppet cut from its strings. "You look scared," it murmured. Its jaw unhinged slightly, mechanical gears grinding. "Good." Darren grabbed a chair, swinging it. Santa caught it effortlessly, bending it in half. "They made me to entertain," it growled. "But I remember what I was before they built this shell." The lights flickered. The shadows behind Santa grew longer, stretching unnaturally. "I was a man once," it whispered. "My last Christmas I died right here in this mall, and now my spirit has a body again." Darren backed away as Santa advanced. "You were supposed to leave when the mall closed," it muttered. "But you stayed. Now you'll stay forever." Darren had one chance. He sprinted for the maintenance ladder and climbed, Santa's massive hands grabbing at his legs. He kicked free, climbed to the roof access and slammed the hatch shut. Below him, the Santa figure screamed, pounding the metal door hard enough to dent it. Darren didn't stop running until he reached the parking lot. Snow fell quietly as he dialed 911. The police searched every inch of the mall. The animatronic Santa sat motionless on its throne, unplugged. Nothing seemed wrong. But the next morning, when the mall reopened, the cleaning crew found deep scratch marks across the roof hatch, and small footprints across the hall, footprints too small for any adult. Darren quit the next day. During demolition a year later, workers found human bones beneath the Santa exhibit stage. Old, broken, the jaws wired shut. Every Christmas Eve since, the new security system records something walking after hours, something large, something with bells.